Hello and welcome to Talking Automotive with Mark and John. My name is John Sinclair and my co-host Mark Palavestra.
Hi John. Today we've got Russell Younghusband from Getac. And Russell tells us or shares some fantastic information with us on the technology in servicing and maintaining the after-sale side of the business. But this is very much the technical side of the hard drives that tap into vehicles and the systems that help make that business optimized.
Yeah, to me it was really fascinating how sophisticated the after-sales back end of the business has become and the huge opportunities and the amount of revenue it can create for your business.
Subscribe to our channel, follow us on LinkedIn, Spotify or iTunes, and flag the bell below on YouTube to get updates.
So let's jump into it.
With 30 years' experience in auto logistics and state-of-the-art locations in 5 major Australian cities, Precar Fleet Services is an independent division of Precar Services, offering specialty fleet fit-outs for commercial applications ranging from simple tray and tow bar fitments to fully bespoke service body and accessory installation. With quality-assured safety, compliance and standardisation of vehicle builds, Precar Fleet Services are a premier all-in-one solutions provider for commercial vehicle fleet operators, leasing companies, and original equipment manufacturers. For further information on how Precar Fleet Services can assist in solving your commercial vehicle fit-out needs, please visit precar.com.au and click on the link to Fleet Services.
Modera is a cloud-based AI-powered CRM and retail platform aimed at digitizing the physical process of selling a car. The Modera platform sits between existing automotive dealer and OEM systems, providing car dealerships a quick and easy shift to digital ways of working, all done entirely digitally and with total ease.
Hi Russell, welcome to the show. Great to have you on. Maybe just to kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about Getac, what sort of services you offer and some of the industries you service?
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. I must commend you on running so many of these. It's great and very interesting and informative. So thanks again. Getac, well, they're part of a Taiwanese multinational organization called Getac Synex. Getac Synex is around $40 billion company. Obviously a bit of fluctuation there, but it's really got its fingers in many different business areas, from traditional IT channels to system integration. It's also in the petrochemical and the food processing industries. So really quite broad and vast as an organization. In 1989, they formed a company with General Electric Aerospace called Getac, which is the organization that I represent within the group of companies. And that was really there to design and manufacture computing technology for, at the time, more defense-related industries in the US. That was in 89, 30 odd years on. Of course, the whole IT industry has evolved so much that it's kind of beyond comprehension to, I think, what we could have all anticipated at the time. But if you remember back in 89, it was probably something that resembled more of a luggable type PC, proprietary systems that had their own software and really gave little flexibility to what users within the defense and many other industries required. So Getac really seized that opportunity and started to create mobile IT equipment. Really, it's around ruggedization. So it's about fit-for-purpose technology that is used by and empowers operatives, no matter whether they are defense, police, into utility, energy business, field service business, to go out there and perform their tasks. Many of them are mission critical. And what you can't do is to let the PC or the IT equipment let you down when you're in the field because of productivity and issues with efficiency, and in some cases even worse than that, I would say. So Getac specialises in this area. It's a global company. It has representation throughout the world as well. So in that broad sense, we've been able to understand industries, many industries as I've mentioned, and one of those, of course, is automotive. Because of the sheer scale of the vehicle manufacturers and their dealer networks out there, when we talk about winning global programs for an automotive OEM, we talk about thousands and thousands of units that are being used throughout the automotive value chain, no matter whether it's in the R&D and engineering area, whether it's a manufacturing or logistics requirement, and very much so within the dealer community for aftersales, predominantly for diagnostics. So our devices are the platform that link up the software of the manufacturer or its tier one provider and the vehicle connector to the vehicles themselves. And that's been the case for many years. But ultimately, hardware on its own isn't enough. Really, when you look at the challenges that face the automotive industry, and I'm sure we'll go into that, one of them for sure is about how we can align end-to-end solutions that solve business challenges within the workshop service environment of these dealers. So we now do hardware. We wrap around all the accessories and services that you would expect. And these things go down as far as global certification. In some markets where vehicle brands have dealers, it's notoriously difficult to get products in and out of those regions. So we're experts in really getting the logistics sorted, again, with our partner community, but also servicing them as well. Because if they do fail, and rugged equipment fails less often, but if it does fail, then you need to be able to get the users up and running as quickly as you can. So bringing all that together, but really now introducing software into the mix as well, John. So we're offering end-to-end hardware software solutions for aftersales.
So you mentioned, Russell, the biggest challenge you feel is the introduction of the end-to-end software. I'm going to just jump back a little bit because I'm an old school tech guy. And when you just described that the devices originally started in 1989 and that was all about the ruggedization of the device, so it doesn't let you down when you're doing R&D, performing manufacturing operations, because a traditional laptop or PC back then, if you knocked it around, hard drives would fail, you'd lose your data, and all sorts of stuff like that. So the sensitivity was very much an issue. But in that after-sales arena, so that you've got the hardware, which I'm guessing most of the techs would be familiar with. And then is it the challenge around getting that software and getting them to embrace the software? And how does that end-to-end bit work? How do you see that big challenge?
Yeah, again, if I go back from when I started in this industry, at the time there were providers, your usual tier one providers that were out there offering diagnostic platforms, or the manufacturers themselves created something, or they would use the tier one platforms. So that would be proprietary hardware running their software. But of course, with Windows being or Microsoft being so powerful, and the direction to kind of move into an off-the-shelf solution, like many industries have, to take advantage of that, it was about selecting the right device, but also making sure that didn't limit the software that was being developed by the OEMs themselves or their tier ones. And of course, as the cars got more complex, the software becomes more complex. And the ability to communicate with that vehicle as well, as ECUs became more and more. I think nowadays you've got over 100 ECUs in a vehicle. Each one of those plays an important part to the smooth running of the vehicle. But also, if these ECUs should break, then it's a huge investment and cost and disruption to the business as well. I don't think it was ever an issue with technicians embracing what we see today as traditional laptop, tablet type technology. And very much today, they all have their own versions of smartphones, smart devices, so they're very familiar with that. But any change within any business, any transformation can always be met with some resistance. What we felt was the most important is, you have technicians that get paid by the labor hour. They got to be working on vehicles and repairing vehicles, otherwise they're not getting paid in some markets. So having a device or a solution that stood up to the job. It's like any other tool in a workshop. You pick up your tool to fix something mechanical on a car. Well, you're going to treat your computer the same. So ensuring that if the computer and the diagnostic tool is treated the same, that if it's dropped, if it's subject to extreme temperature, ambient conditions, there isn't going to be the point of failure, because then it's not the initial cost of the investment of these devices that's the problem. It's the through life costs that will ultimately be a bigger burden on these dealerships. So really our focus and our emphasis is on ensuring that the platform that's chosen by the vehicle manufacturers and the dealers is up to the job, and it doesn't let them down. And 20 years on from when I kind of started in this industry and focusing on this, they're still doing the same. The OEMs are still putting their bet on rugged technology to fulfill the diagnostic job. Yeah. So I think that speaks volumes for the power that it has within that diagnostic platform.
Now, Russell, what I'm really interested in is that back-end part of the business. So how do you create a smarter workshop, and how do you streamline those processes to drive things such as revenue, customer retention, and the engagement with the technician? Because they're working with your tools, and it needs to be easy to work with, but you still need to get them all the information.
Yeah, well, I guess, how do we deal with that? Well, we have many products in our portfolio, whether they are hardware-centric or they are end-to-end hardware-software solutions, which we can look into. But reality is, it's about, what the principle of what's a dealer there for? What's the after-sales department of a dealer there for? And it's to bring profits back into the business. And more so than ever, as new vehicle sales have been down, the reliance on generating revenues from the sales department has become more challenging. So they turn to after-sales. And after-sales is predominantly there to drive part sales and billable labor hours through their department. And as importantly, keep hold of those customers, because what typically has happened and is happening within the network is customer retention. It's one of those never-ending challenges. But if the after-sales department can't reach upwards of 80% and beyond profit and revenue for the business, then there's a good chance that business is going to ultimately fail. So what we look at is ways to, number one, keep the customers coming back. Yeah. So that customer journey, that vehicle journey, vehicles change hands, customers move from one location to another, and convenience really plays a big part there. So looking at technologies that streamline the approach from disparate systems that don't communicate to one another, from how you train your staff to work more efficiently internally, but also that then translates out to the customers themselves. So in simple terms, what we're looking to do is to remove paper and manual processes from that dealer community. We also look to link this back into the manufacturers themselves, because I think the sharing of information goes both ways. And right now, I don't think it's any secret that the vehicle manufacturers don't necessarily know what is going on at the dealer end. And I know there's some big questions around who owns the data and sensitivity there. So I get that, but I think more can be done to digitalize these systems, these processes, and take advantage of that. So we streamline, we connect, we give products that will keep on going, that won't let you down, and will make you more efficient and upskill the workforce more, that the customer sees ultimately, has a better experience.
Now, Russell, I'm keen to ask about, whilst we're in the depth of the after sales department here, and it's, as you say, it's very much a profit center for the business, one that brings back customers to your dealership, and if you do it right, you will continue to have that customer as a service customer, and ultimately another new car or a new used car customer. But I'm keen to get an understanding about getting back to the vehicle, the core of what this is all about, the customer and the car. So can you tell us about the electronic vehicle health checks, intelligent planning, and PC-based diagnostics? And how's that developing with automotive?
Okay, yeah, for sure. These are very close to my heart. These are areas that I've spent a lot of time over the last 12 months really talking to a lot of OEMs, to the dealer groups, also to customers, to what is really bothering them, where do they see the issues, what are the real disruptors within that business. In essential terms, what we're looking to do is to, as I mentioned earlier, remove paper, remove manual processes where they don't need to be there. Because paper and manual process will just slow down your operation. You don't have visibility of what's going on. I mean, you can't expect your service management team or the dealer principal to spend their full time focusing inwards on how their technicians are performing. Was that job done in time? Did we hit the customer promise time? Did we maximize our upselling opportunities for every customer that comes through? Is our technician having any idle time? So many different business challenges that play out. So first and foremost, we need to digitalize, and we need to provide the technologies that enable the OEMs and the dealers to do that. But digitalization is not the full story, because it's about the transformation. It's about the hearts and mind, the behavior, the willingness to move over. So whatever technology we do introduce, and EVHC being one of them, what it can't do is to add more time to the process. So using electronic vehicle health check over a paper-based health check system, for example, will remove the need to duplicate. What I mean by that is, we've all been there. We drive up to the dealership. Someone comes out to greet you if you're lucky, and they'll walk around with a pad or a clipboard, and they'll take notes on your vehicle. They'll walk around with you, and they'll look for dents and scratches. They maybe log down the mileage and the kilometers of the vehicle. And they'll, if they're doing it right, they'll try and look for opportunities to increase the service invoice by finding wear and tear items that they could perhaps convince you to go ahead with. The reality of that is customers are turning up with their smartphones, and they're being greeted with a service advisor that's using paper to log that. There's no ability to take images, whether they be still images or video images, that can be used to audit, but also you can be used to later in that process convince the customer why maybe something needs to be changed on their vehicle. So digitalizing what was paper means that you can connect to your dealer management system, you can connect to other software or systems like menu pricing, part systems, and ensure that in real time you can pull information through. So if you identify an item on the car that needs to be changed, you can quickly price that up and check the stock. But by doing that, you really want to get that to the customer that's dropped his keys off, he's gone, and he's in his office or he's at home, or she's at home. And you want to be able to give them a full report of their vehicle. You want to give them the images, the videos. You want to give them easy to understand technical information, but also you want to be able to commit a time. So if we do this work, dear Mr. Customer, we can still hit your promise time, your key-to-key time that we committed to you at the beginning of the day. Or no, this is going to add an extra 30 minutes or 1 hour to that process. So giving the transparency to the customer, making them more informed, making them feel that it's not a pushy sales process. I think in turn, you're going to get higher conversions coming through. And you're going to make sure that that vehicle, when leaving, any red items are absolutely flagged to the customer as safety items. And if it's amber items, which are not essential but need to be done and may impact the efficiency of your vehicle, then you want to let them know about that and give them the choice whether they can afford it, or whether they feel that needs to be done to make those decisions. All online, streamlined, all systems talking together. And wouldn't it be nice if a customer does authorize some work, that's written directly onto the job card of the technician, not using human intervention that create bottlenecks, unfortunately, within the dealers today that slow down that whole process. And again, what you don't want to do is to keep the customer waiting for his vehicle because there's a break in the connection there. So that would be health check. With planning, well, most DMSs, not all, but most DMSs have a planning system. And that's the bit where you're booking the customer in, you're loading the workshop and assigning work to technicians. In most cases, this is manually calculated or planned. So you can imagine, Mark, you've got your workshop control team sitting there at the dealer, and every day there's bookings coming through. And they're then tasked to look at the nature of the work, assign that work to technicians that have the right skills. So God forbid that you assign some high voltage work to a technician that isn't skilled to work on an electric vehicle, as an example. They'll assign it to a service bay because maybe only certain service bays can carry out that nature of the work. It maybe needs to go to the body shop because some smart repairs have been identified on the vehicle. Do you have the special tools in stock to fulfill that? Is the diagnostic system available? Is it a VIP customer? Is it a customer that's complained before? So many factors that come into play. Is it a quick service? On a quick service, you would typically want to have two people working on the vehicle at the same time to obviously get that vehicle through. So many factors, and humans are having to calculate this day in, day out. And worst of all, on the day when everything is nicely planned, the workshop is fully utilized and up to capacity, technicians phone in sick, customers show up late, parts haven't arrived, then everything's put into a tailspin. Unfortunately, it means that the dealers are inwardly focused on fighting the fires and putting those out, trying to keep everybody happy. And reality is, it becomes impossible for them. So our planning system can map into any dealer management system or any other platform, technical information, diagnostics, warranty systems, and it can automate that process. Let the humans monitor the business rather than working into the business where they're trying to resolve issues all the time. Let them monitor it and let the systems do the heavy lifting and the repetitive tasks. So our intelligent planning with artificial intelligence, with automation will certainly give you that. And then from a diagnostic perspective, the way I look at this is that there are many different requirements within a workshop. And when you go into the typical workshop, you'll have paper processes, you'll have technical information that's being accessed by a traditional PC that's sat on a workbench somewhere. You'll have the technician going off to a clocking system in the corner of the workshop. His EVHC is being done on a small smart device, and he's using a rugged device for diagnostics. All these different technologies are working together. And you could just imagine, put yourself in the shoes of a technician that's having to log in and out of all these different devices and use different devices. It's no wonder that things drop, things break in that system, and a disruption happens. So for us, diagnostics is about what is an optimum device. And fortunately, we have a lot of experience now because we have these global customers that have multiple tens of thousands of units out there. We know what works for technicians and what they want to see. They want to see a screen which is optimally sized to view wiring diagrams, technical publications, part schematics, data logging. They need it to be able to connect to the vehicle and also to the infrastructure of the dealer at the same time. It needs to be able to give them a full shift battery. There's no point halfway through a flashing of an ECU that the battery dies on your device. And really sponsoring that need, mobility. Give the technician the tool that he can take to the side of the vehicle, under the vehicle, wherever he needs to be, rather than forcing the technician to go to a workshop, to a workbench, or to a trolley to access this data.
You take away all the paper processes, you take away all the manual processes. How does that translate for a financial perspective for the dealer?
Yeah, okay. Well, of course, in the end, everything comes down to the financials and smooth operation, healthy P&L of these businesses. What we know through our customers that use our technology, as I mentioned earlier about the through life costs, is that if you're investing in a rugged device for diagnostics or for accessing technical information, then you will pay more upfront. I think that's there's no question about that. But when you look at the possible disruption of taking a cheaper alternative over a period of 3 to 5 years, and in many cases we hear products failing every year, And what about the disruption to the technician if his diagnostic device has been sent off for repair and he can't do the diagnostic? What is the cost consequence to that dealer, not only in real terms about that revenue for the day, but losing that customer as a result of a bad experience? So from a traditional hardware perspective, through life cost any day. You pay more upfront, but you're going to save money in the long run. Because ruggedized equipment, Getac ruggedized equipment has a high residual value as well. What we see now, more and more OEMs are using leasing methods to never own the device, actually. After 3 years, they have arrangements where they get that swapped out for the latest technology, and that older device gets pushed into the second-hand market because it still has an intrinsic value to someone else. When we think about software, we know through our software that we've been able to reduce the time it takes call centers, service reception staff, and work controllers by as much as 25%. So that's 25% less time to fulfill the same tasks, and that's 25% more time to do more tasks, greet more customers. And from a technician perspective, 10% efficiency gain is quite common. So having 10% extra time saved means that's 10% more vehicles that can be seen in a given period. If I then give a scenario to perhaps help with that a little bit more, John, if you take a 10 technician workshop, it's probably got 2 service reception guys at the front of the house greeting the customers, and they're roughly technicians are on average doing 4 jobs per day. So over the course of the month, you're getting around 880 jobs, 900 jobs pass through that workshop. We calculate that normally if we take an average service repair bill of being somewhere around $250, of course that changes by market, that we could, through those efficiency gains and those savings, generate an extra $50,000. Or another way to look at it is 200 odd more job cards passing through that workshop in a monthly period. So I think the financial benefits are there to be seen. Again, every dealer is different, and globally the demands are different. But there is still some commonality, I would say, there that would present some gains for the business itself.
Yeah, but the interesting thing of that, Russell, is that 50,000 is straight to bottom line because your overheads are covered. So if you look at it from a profit perspective, it's a multiple of your profit. So depending on how much profit you're making, so it could be substantial gain for the business.
John, you're right, and I think like everything. Well, what's the catch with everything? And of course, the dealership needs to invest in technology, and we recognise that because capital investments, especially if you're not at the point where you're setting budgets for the following year, but you want to get the benefits of those solutions today. So we work on a subscription model, and we believe we're out on our own with this, actually, not only having the world's only artificial intelligence planning system, and I can tell you a story in a second about what I heard going on in the market, but also being able to offer the dealers this in a subscription basis. So if we can generate $50,000 of extra revenue per month, and the cost to the dealer is a small fraction of that for the hardware. So this is putting a device in the hands of every technician, because you want him to have a device always, because he wants to do his diagnostic checks, he wants to do his health check, he wants to access technical information, and he wants his job card online. You don't want paper job cards anymore. So when you take all of that into account, our systems are hardware and software related subscription model on a monthly basis, and would be a mere fraction of what you're going to get as an upside there. So I think that's an important point. Back to that story ahead. We're not the only organization that talks about paperless, and the benefits are obvious. I have heard that some of the OEMs that embark on these programs, and they're really looking at the paperless flows, and they're looking at introducing artificial intelligence as part of that flow as well. And many millions later, they still yet to be able to deliver these types of services to market. I think with our systems, they're off the shelf. They're very affordable, and certainly are there not only to support OEM global programs or regional programs, but dealers on their own as well, if they want to go ahead with this.
Now, Russell, the question for me is, what's your view on the technical repair and maintenance information, and how's it changing the future of servicing in automotive?
And again, there's many stories I can say here, but traditionally, we've had block exemption. In Europe, we've had right to repair. I know this is coming into other markets as well. But traditionally, of course, the technical information and the right to repair those vehicles over the years has changed immensely. It's a much more competitive market now. It's not just about the franchise dealers. It also relates to the independents as well. So competition is a healthy thing for the consumer. I think it's also a healthy thing for business as well. It keeps you on your toes. It gets you to think about what more you can do to present your organization as the one that a consumer wants to go to. And when I say consumer, I think fleet management. I mean, it's a huge opportunity for dealers, not only in franchise world, but also in the independents, to get the big order books coming through, but also to, in some ways, lock those fleets into long-term service contracts. Yeah, not the typical 3-4 year warranties. I know some of the manufacturers are extending their warranty now, but one of the biggest challenges is in segment 2, so between sort of years 4 and 7, a lot of those customers are defecting away to, with that choice. So having the OEMs needing to provide the right platforms that give whoever wants to repair that vehicle access to the right data, I think is here and now. It's important that those systems can operate through URLs, through the cloud, because if you need to update technical information, you certainly don't want that in a paper form or on a having to be shipped out in some sort of USB stick every time you need to update the dealers. So cloud-based platforms that enable access to that technical information, but also gives the OEMs an opportunity to monetize that. So if you want to access our technical information and repair our vehicles and get our bulletins, then you're going to pay us a subscription fee. And one OEM who I was talking to perhaps went from being very much put up the walls and block any independents coming in and interfering in our business to very much going the opposite way now. And they see this as an opportunity not only to monetize, but also stay in touch with where that vehicle is going or where that customer is going. Because if it goes outside of their current network, they lose track of that. So I think there's a huge opportunity for everybody to embrace technical information. I also see there's a convergence of diagnostic platforms and technical information coming into the same platforms as well, where traditionally they've been siloed systems, which again just adds more disruption and inconvenience to the users themselves.
But I think the other important part, Russell, is the ability to supply parts to those tier 2 service repairers. So if you know where the car's going and you know who's servicing them, it's a huge opportunity to supply parts.
No, you're right, John. Absolutely. Genuine part sales, of course. It's a highly competitive industry, and keeping track of where the vehicles are going, I think that can only help with that. And let's face it, dealers may lose their customers after maybe the warranty period, or even before it in some cases, but they are probably providing parts to the independent that's repairing that vehicle. So having more intelligence about what parts are being sold where and to who can only be a good thing, I think. And again, everybody can coexist and benefit, I think, from the changes that are happening within the industry right now. But parts definitely being one of the key points there.
Now, Russell, does Getac play any sort of role in automotive R&D, engineering, or automotive manufacturing at all?
Very much so. We really focus our energy on the whole value chain. And again, automotive for us doesn't just represent in its obvious form automotive industry, but automotive vehicles transcend that, and they're going into every industry that we are operating in. So it's important for us to capture and support our customers, drive value and efficiencies and productivity within their respective companies. So manufacturing, a few examples of where we are currently supporting major global brands. In the area of assembly, you have the automated guided vehicles that mount Getac devices onto those vehicles. Those vehicles are then delivering the parts to the operatives that are on the assembly line. And you'll have technology such as RFID technology and other technologies that are ensuring that the operative is taking the right part and placing on the right part of the chassis and ensuring that that's streamlined. If an assembly line goes down, then it's unthinkable about the cost impact to these manufacturers. Vehicles are coming off the line every 90 seconds or so in a production line. So every second really does count in that. And if the line does fail, you also want to have technology, and you want your field service guys to be able to know where the point of failure is and get to it quickly. So they use our mobile devices to roam around these facilities, benefiting from things such as GPS, RFID, barcoding technologies to do so. And you'll also find our devices are mounted to forklift trucks as part of the inbound, outbound logistics process as well. And when it comes to R&D and engineering, these cars are tested in some pretty hostile and extreme conditions. So you can imagine taking traditional technology, computer technology, into Finland or into the desert, and doing the testing, it's not long before these devices fail. So using Getac products that can withstand vibration, extreme temperature, ranging, ambient conditions, dust, I think is really important to them as well. So as long as we've been providing after sales with solutions, we've been doing the same for the manufacturing process. And I think Industry 4.0, the human machine interfacing that's going on, it's only going to lend itself more to mobility within that value chain.
Where do you see the future of automotive servicing?
The future of automotive servicing, well, that's a big question. I think I'd say, the first message is, well, I don't think anybody needs to worry, and they should be excited about the opportunities that are going to come from this. Okay, ICE vehicles will ultimately disappear, and they're going to be replaced with electric vehicles or hydrogen vehicles or biofuel vehicles. In some cases, the traditional approaches still happen. No matter whether you've got an electric vehicle or an ICE vehicle, you still have mechanical parts, moving parts, wear and tear parts that needed to be attended to. I think where there's a new perspective is that it will open the door to new players. They're not the traditional dealership and service related entities, but to a wider audience, especially as automotive OEMs adopt the agency model that's heavily touted out there right now. But things such as ADAS calibration. If you're running autonomous vehicles or assisted vehicles, then it's absolutely essential, I think, that these vehicles are calibrated when they come into the workshop. So that will create additional revenue streams for the supply chain, undoubtedly. And it really will embrace. I did an article a few months back around Silicon Valley and how Silicon Valley really, with Apple and others, where they've really embraced smart technology and how that can empower their users, whether it be consumers or work users, to collaborate more, empower them to be able to do more because the data is available for them in a given time. The industry is going to really benefit from taking a leaf out of the Silicon Valley book. I think it's getting there. It's a long way to go. It often takes one or two notable manufacturers or dealer groups to kind of take the leap of faith, and I think then the floodgates will open. Automation is definitely going to play a bigger part. Cars are connected. Agriculture and commercial vehicles have been connected for a lot longer. Passenger cars have learned a lot from that, but it's all very well having intelligent vehicles, but you're still going to need that human intervention at the dealer. You're still going to need those vehicles to be serviced. You're still going to need to have some interaction between the user of the vehicle when they want to bring their vehicles in and what goes on at the dealer side as well. So using autonomy, using automation to take more of the burden and the heavy lifting away, perhaps create operations that are more profitable as a result of that, but really turning the users, empowering the users to do more that is more customer centric and responding to the behavior that we see there within the customer base, really, whether it be private or whether that be within sort of business to business world. So I think service, the future of after sales is bright. I think it's just looking at it from a different perspective. It's an area that's passionate for me, automotive. Getac is an organization that, as I say, works in many different industries. We learn from one another in these industries. Getac has subject matter experts in these industries. And what I say right now is I think automotive really is probably one of the most exciting industries to be in, because there's so much change happening, and that we can all embrace it and benefit from that rather than fear it. But unfortunately, it will identify the weak, or those that perhaps have remained in that the old way of doing business, which still has its place. But I think you would be concerned about those organizations in terms of how they are, really set up for the future and the opportunities there. So as Getac, we're particularly excited about that. We will continue to contribute back to the industry through webinars, events, any way that we feel can add value and benefit. Share the word, really, share best practice. Hopefully, organizations will want to talk to us about our solutions and understand a bit more, and we're very open and willing and look forward to hearing from them.
Thank you, Russell, for sharing your time and your wisdom with us and our audience. And I was just keen to summarise the Getac thing. So I think there's a couple of ironies, not ironies, but it is interesting that Getac was formed with an alliance between GE, Mitutoyo Synex, of military technology. So really your background is in serious hardware that's not going to let you down. So you've got military hardware, you've got excellent technology, and Taiwan is famous for really high quality tooling. In fact, it's in many cases the benchmark. So the Taiwanese product is sensational. But it's in 1989, about the same time that Tim Berners-Lee invents HTML. So there's this clash of timing is everything. So you've jumped on board with some two large juggernauts as an organisation, and really flexing some military muscle in the right way, that you're saying, right, this is all about the ruggedization of the tech. Software will continue to develop, but it's no good unless you've got something that's reliable. And this is something you talked about as we went through the podcast, is that the benefit to the dealer with your technology is it's not going to let you down. So it's not going to break, you're not going to have downtime, you're not going to have an inefficient operative, but you're integrating that technology with the software. And that's where it becomes the biggest challenge, is aligning that solution, the ruggedization and the software, and making it usable for the humans. So at the end of the day, you want to minimize paper. You want to have an integration leveraging AI with the software and hardware, so you actually have a holistic process that you're going to give a solution to a dealer or even an OEM for their business. Because ultimately it's about fixing the car or updating the car and minimizing the disruption to the customer, but doing it in a way that is time and cost efficient, so that customer experience is fantastic, optimization of labor is achieved, so therefore you make as much money as possible, but also have less downtime. So that is amazing. And when you look at the numbers, I was actually staggered by the numbers. So your systems and product can actually improve productivity from an administrative perspective in the service department, which, by the way, is the most profitable part of a dealership. The 25% increase on the administrative side, but even the 10% increase in productivity for the techs, because those two numbers are staggering. That 25% from an administrative side really lifts your CSI, which a lot of dealers are incentivized financially to have good CSI. And good CSI makes sense because you actually make happy customers, which actually make more money. And that's what it's all about. But then on the other side, the efficiency of the dealer and getting a 10% gain in the output of the tech is huge. And that way the tech's happier. They're not mucking around logging into a whole heap of different systems because you've got them in the one spot, and that integration with the DMSs. So when you look at even the ability to lease and you're turning over your devices so you're always kept up to date, makes so much sense. And then the other bit where the OEMs know they lose their customers after 4 to 7 years, sharing that tech is actually quite smart in their systems, because they can sell more parts and they can track where those cars are, who's driving them, who's maintaining them, and then they can actually put strategies in place to retain that better in the network or communicate with that customer. So the connected car is the significant bit, that you have a significant part to play in maintaining that and optimizing it. And the road going forward, because we've got EVs and ICE cars will eventually disappear, or there'll be a hybrid of ICE cars and EVs. So the future is strong. Servicing's where it's at, and it will always be there, even though we may have autonomous cars. Someone still needs to maintain it when there is a problem. And this is where your technology really steps up and fulfills that need in an exceptionally good way.
Yeah, Russell, thanks very much. I think it's been a fascinating discussion and very interesting, because that back end of the dealer's business is so important. Very interesting. So thanks very much for speaking to us today.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mark. All the best to you.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed the discussion with Russell as much as we did. There sure is a lot happening in the back end of the service departments, whether they be in dealers or in the aftermarket. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to our channel. Click the bell below so you get alerts for when we have our new podcast released. Follow us on LinkedIn and on iTunes or Spotify, and also subscribe to our website, which is autocurrents.com.
Thanks very much for listening, and we'll talk to you again next week.